Hi everyone, and welcome back along to the channel. Today I'm going to be modifying my Holga pinhole camera. I am going to be adding a filter holder so I can fit some filters on, hopefully sorting out some light leaks and a few other bits. So to do the filter, I'm going to use a step up ring. This is a 58 to 77 mil. You can get these from anywhere really. eBay sell loads of them. I'm going for 77 mil because it's the larger filter size that I use, and all you have to do is remove this smaller thread. This is one I actually done earlier. I ground it off so it's nice and flat on that side, and then you have the 77 mil filter thread that side to fit the filters on. So also I'm going to be shaving the, just get in focus, the hole around the pinhole. This little area causes a little bit of vignetting. It seems to only happen on a few shots, more the shorter exposures that seem to end up showing it for some reason. So you can basically just shave that out a little bit to hopefully get rid of that problem. But to do that, we're going to do it safely and basically dismantle the whole camera. I don't want to end up hitting the shutter system, so let's strip this thing down. So the first screws we're going to undo are these four on the inside of the camera. So let's quickly do them. And that will drop off the front section of the camera to show the shutter system on the Holga. And let's get that in the light a bit. So the next two we're going to undo are the two screws which are holding the pinhole in place, which is this one here and this one here. And that just comes straight off. Then there's the two which hold the springs in place, so we just quickly undo them. Make sure you put all these in a pot so you don't end up losing them. And these two, well these four, but you only need to undo three. Basically, no you don't, just need to undo two, which basically just hold the shutter system in. It just wedges it down, and then you take the whole thing out. And that's that. That is stripped down, ready for modifying. Okay, so we're going to clean the work area, get everything out of the way, and then take a sensible saw to cut this off. A bit overkill this, but it should do the job. And what you don't ever want to do is cut towards your hand, so always cut away and start hacking this thing off. Okay, so we're just going to finish this last little bit, and there it goes. It all just comes straight off. Thankfully not too much damage, just one little cut. Right, so again, clean the area, get rid of all the junk. And what we are going to do next is smooth the front off as much as possible to get it all keyed up and nice and smooth. So we're just going to sand that down until we get most of that all off. So the next bit we're going to do is to shave out this hole, and all I'm using is a little file and a bit of a sharp angle. Just keep filing around. You don't need to worry so much about the tops, it's more the horizontal edges. So we shave that out just to kind of add a bit more of slope to that. If you've got like a countersunk tool on a drill, that might actually do a bit of a nicer job. But this works, and by taking the whole front off, it stops any damage to that shutter system, which I was worried about at the beginning. So then we're going to line up the cut down step up ring. You want to get that nice and central. And when you're happy with it being central, we're just going to scribe around it just so we can line it up when we've got it all covered up in glue. A bit of keying up on the back, just to hopefully help it stick up a little bit better. So I'm just going to be using this Gorilla Glue. It's a bit more of a more like a sealant glue. I find sometimes with the super glues they can go a bit too hard, and a bit of a use over time it can make them crack. Well, I'm hoping with this stuff it's going to take a couple of days to feel it fully dry, but I'm hoping it should be a lot stronger in the long run for the use with filters and stuff being screwed onto it. So we'll just see how that goes. So once you've got a nice chunk of glue around it, we'll stick it down firmly. Still trying to get this nice and central. And give it a good squeeze down. Once you're happy, just smear the glue around the edges. This should hopefully stop any little light leak cracks that might be between the filter and the plastic base. It just smooths it off a bit nicer as well. Okay, so that is it. That is fitted on. We've got to leave that now for a few days, a couple of days, just to fully cure off. And we'll come back to that bit in a little while. Just making a bit of a mess. Alright, that'll do for a little bit. Right, so the next issue I'm going to sort out of this is the back of this camera. Now, for one, it's incredibly shiny inside. A lot of people pointed that out in comments on other videos, and have said about the possible light coming through this red window and bouncing around. If you compare the size of that red window to something like the Yondu's, it's a lot bigger. It's also a lot thinner, where the Yondu is quite thick, so it probably reduces the amount of light coming through it. And I think what's happening with that is, as the light's coming through, it's bouncing around on the inside and then getting onto the film. So what I am going to do is put a sticky felt on. So I'm hoping that this will obviously dull the back and reduce any light to bounce around, and hopefully sort out part of the problem. So I'm just going to mark it up, cut it all to size, and stick this thing on. With this stuff you can mark on the back and then use an appropriate straight tool to mark your cutting edges. Then just keep chopping it up basically until it fits the back. Okay, so the other little bit I'm going to do on this is to cut out a little hole for the red window so I can see the numbers on the back of the film. I'm only marking this up to the 6x12 hole, as that's all I'm really planning on using this camera in. And the idea behind that is, I'll show you in a minute. Basically we'll stick this on, that will then cover all the reflective black plastic in there, and it should hopefully help absorb some of the light. And by having just that little section on the red window showing, that will basically allow me to close the back window up. A few people had suggested putting tape over it, which would work really well, but to be able to just open and close that window should hopefully sort that problem out. So I'll just open it up to advance the film on and then close it up when I'm shooting. So while the glue is drying overnight, why not take this opportunity to subscribe to my channel and hit the bell icon so you won't miss any more of my pinhole adventures and trips out with this Holga. So it is all dry now, and I have shaved off some of the excess glue and aerosoled it black. Try to smarten it up a little bit so it didn't look too off. I also cleaned up the hole there a little bit as well. And also, if you are going to do this and paint this black, just make sure you mask all the thread up so it doesn't get clogged up in paint. And yeah, that's it. Let's put this thing back together. Right, so we're going to get the little pop screws, dump it out, and let's start fitting this thing back up. So the first bit we're putting in is the slidey shutter bit. So that just goes through the hole and slots down in there. And this was actually wrong. That was not the first bit I was meant to put in. So as you'll see, this was the first bit I was meant to put in. So we take that back out. And then we slide the little button through first. And then the slidey mechanism back in, and then we just put them two screws in with the bigger washers and they just help clamp it down. Make sure you don't go too tight, so make sure the shutter still moves nice and freely. Then we're going to put the pinhole back on, so that's just the two screws straight in the center. Again, make sure you don't tighten them up too tight, it is only going into plastic. Make sure that sits nicely on there as well. It's all lined up nice and correct. Now this is actually the fiddliest bits, which are the two springs, so you've just got to hook them in through these two holes and then stretch them up to them threads. So I'll get them hooked in first. So once they're hooked in, basically the easiest way is to stretch them out as much as possible and just to get the screw through that hole and nicely into where it's meant to go. And then just gently tighten it up. You don't want to go too tight. Going too tight, you'll start to see the string being twisted, the spring being twisted around like that. So just ease it off a little bit and make sure that works fine. Then do the same with the other one. Again, make sure it's not too tight. Just over tighten it slightly until you see the spring just twisting off, and then leave it at that. And that's it, that's all working nice and good again. So the next step is fitting the front back on. So just make sure that sits on there correctly, trying to avoid any gaps around the sides. And then that is just nice and simply 4 screws, tighten them up, and that's back on and secure again. Again, make sure there's no gaps around the side. Shutter still works, that's good. Okay, now it's time to test the filter, and that screws on there absolutely perfectly. So I think this filter should work quite well. The 77mm should certainly be wide enough to reduce any chances of it vignetting around on them edges. Having a look down them lines, it certainly looks like it should be fine. I do also have a slot-in style filter, so I'll just put the ring on for that. I have a few extra colour filters with this thing, so I'll just put that on. However, I think with this one, certainly at a side angle, it'll probably cause a bit of a vignetting at 6x12. I might give it a shot, see how it goes. But to save that problem, I can just twist it off to the side and have the filters going sideways. So that should completely eliminate that problem, I'm hoping. Certainly makes the Holga look a little bit better. Oh, didn't put that in right. Quickly adjust that back. So using coloured filters with black and white photography helps you control how colours are converted into a grey shade. So something like this red filter will make blues and greens a lot darker, so it's great for skies. It adds a lot of drama to that, and also lighten reds, pinks and yellows and oranges. So they really do help a lot. Red filters are certainly the most popular, but you can also get green, yellow, orange, blue, and each filter does a slightly different effect, but the reds are certainly the most dramatic and most used. It also adds about an extra 3 stops to the exposure time, so it will help drag out them exposures just a little bit longer. So they're really worthwhile for more creative black and white photography. So that is it. That is my Holga modified and hopefully light leak free, and can now nicely take some filters. I've also managed to sort my shutter system out I've been having, which some people have seen in previous videos. There's a little threaded screw just in the shutter button, and that had just come loose, so every time I tightened up the thread on the cable it just ended up turning it and sitting a little bit off center, so when I pushed the cable release it would sometimes just slightly slip off. I have hopefully glued that in place properly now and it seems to be working okay. So hopefully I can get out and just enjoy this camera now. It's been a bit of a nightmare. I actually quite enjoyed cutting it up and stuff today, so it's been quite good fun. But yeah, so hopefully that is it. So why not subscribe, make sure you don't miss the videos of me heading out of this thing, and all my other videos as well, mostly relating to pinhole photography. And I'll see you next time I'm out, guys. Thanks for watching, I hope you've enjoyed it, and I'll see you soon.